Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Destiny video. And today we have a semi-formal deck, and I say semi-formal because it is the very beginnings of the deck. This deck has not even been around for a week yet, but I'm already loving it. So basically last Wednesday I was at work and just theory crafting, and I really just wanted to build a vehicle deck because I was sick and tired of Imperial Inspection, and I wanted to play something that was off meta. So I built it, didn't play it. I played it Thursday night a couple games. It did surprisingly well, and then when I played it on Friday night, it did even better. I played I think 3 test games against Pomaz, and it won all 3. Um, and I was like, this is actually decent, and everything that I was doing with it felt really good. So I was like, you know what? I don't really want to go to the Star Championship to play Pomaz. I'm just going to go there and I'm going to play something that nobody else is playing. So I brought an Unkar 2 TIE Pilot support deck to the Fantasy Flight Star Championship, which was a 58-person Star Championship. And I actually made Comp 8. I won 5-1 in Swiss, and then in the in the top 8 first round, I faced a Funkar deck. And they got double salvage stand really early by turn 2. And I lost like 8 to 10 resources throughout the game, and you just can't come back from that. It's like, I don't know, that card's so dumb. But in any case, let's start talking about the deck. So first things first, what you need to think about this deck as is actually not really a support deck. A better deck to compare it to would be Jabba Unkar, and that it is a Crime Lord deck. The thing about Jabba Unkar that makes it good for crime lording is that it produces so many resources, and the same is true with this deck. The reason why Jabba Unkar can make tons of resources is that it has the +2 sides on Unkar, as well as focus on all of its character dice. And what that allows you to do is as soon as you roll a focus and 1 black side, you can focus to a +2 and take 3 resources. That's already 5 resources. So if it's turn 1, you can ace and roll Crime Lord for a kill. And it's also even better for the ace and roll Crime Lord if you have focus on your character dice, because you can already have a focus showing before you make the decision to, yes, I'm going to Crime Lord this turn. It's a guaranteed thing. And there are a lot of decks that aren't going to be thinking about that turn 1 against this deck. Once they know this in there, they might like sit there and wait and pass and stuff like that. But especially the first time you play this, you'd be surprised how often you can sneak in an ace and little Crime Lord. Because decks like Poe Maz, they want to claim, right? So they're gonna have Emperor's Throne Room. They're gonna roll up Poe, do the Maz thing. They're gonna claim early to like thermal you or something, and then you're gonna be like ace in the hole, focus, special, Crime Lord, and they're like, wait, what just happened? Yeah, it feels really good. In any case, TIE pilots with Unkar are the same exact thing. They have, except for instead of having a Jabba, you have 2 characters who have 1 focus and 1 resource instead of 2 focus and a resource. So they're slightly worse at the whole focusing into 3, but I found that you can almost always do it anyways. And the 3 side is resources in a sense that you can Unkar with just the 3 side anyways. So it's a little bit, they're about equal at generating resources. So yeah, and what makes this a better Crime Lord deck than Unkar Jabba is that its secondary win condition synergizes with Crime Lord, rather than Jabba Unkar, the secondary win condition is mill, and killing a person helps you survive longer, but it doesn't make them lose cards from their deck faster. So when you're synergizing with a Crime Lord deck with damage, they go together better because you can kill one character with damage and Crime Lord the other character. So it's much faster than you would think. It's incredibly fast of a deck. I've beat Pomaz multiple times in 3 turns. And you kind of have to do that against Pomaz, especially with 3 characters. So it's good that it can do that. But in any case, I'm going to go into some of the cards and why I chose them, and then I'll do a little bit more of a summary of the deck afterwards. So first things first, Supply Line. This is a beautiful card. The reason for it is, as I said, everything that's good about the character dice at the beginning is true of this thing. It has a focus and it has a resource. That's what the TIE pilots have, and that's what the TIE pilots are there for, is for generating the resources early. Supply Line is a TIE pilot die with a couple extra resource sides. So it's just, you put that out there and it does exactly what you want it to do. It generates more resources throughout the game and also has that random focus that can really help for guaranteeing damage. Even that special, if you used your last card to reroll and you missed again, you can special with Supply Line for another reroll. So it's quite good. It is the perfect like one-drop support card that helps you get more resources throughout the game. Slave 1 is definitely the best damage dealing support out there. it is super well costed. So if you look at the TIE Fighter, it's 1, 2, 3. If you look at Slave 1, it's 2, 3, 4. And if you look at ATSD, it's 3, 4, 5. So there's all increment by 1. Only Slave 1 has the best price point, I would argue. Paying 3 for a die that might roll a 1 or a 2 maybe, and then sometimes a 3, is much worse than paying 1 more for a dice that rolls 2, 3, and a 4. Those values are really good. And then its special is not so good in this deck, but I'll explain that in a second. Whereas the ATSD, its cost is just so prohibitive that like the 3, 4, 5, while it's insane, is like you're never going to get this out unless, well, you have sneaky plays like this. And then you look at the E-Web, and the E-Web is actually very good for this deck. You never have control of the battlefield. The reason why it's good is that it has 4 black range sides. So when you think of TIE Pilots, you roll out both TIE Pilots, you get the dice in the pool. Your opponent can't remove your support dice, right? Not exactly, because your support dice have to roll out and hit their range side first. Now, all these support sides dice have good odds. They have 50% odds of hitting a range side and thus being protected by the TIE Pilot. But that's only half the time. And if you only have 1 or 2 supports and they both hit that, and you hit the 25% chance scenario, they could end up just removing both of your support dice as they are rolled into the pool. E-Web placement is just it's 66% instead of 50%, and that's just a big deal. It's also every once in a while you do get a claim off in this deck, and then it's just insane. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3 is very, very, very good. And then ATSD is in here because Friends in High Places, essentially. You need more than 6 supports. You're almost never going to hardcast ATSD, but you want your Friends in High Places to always hit a value card. So it's in there. Slave 1 special, the reason why it's not very good, sadly, is that you roll out your TIE Pilots first, then you roll out your Slave 1 once it's protected. So if you hit the special, A, it's not going to be protected by the TIE Pilots, and B, your opponent usually doesn't have any dice in the pool by that point. You're usually rolling out Unkar, rolling out TIE Pilots, rolling out supports. So it's one of the last dice rolled in, sadly. Now, moving over here, we have the bread and butter of the deck. That is the Ace and Lowell Crime Lord. Typically, you don't really want this turn 1. You want to start getting supports out, and then you Ace and Lowell them at some point around turn 2 or turn 3. There are some decks that you have to save these cards, and some decks you never want to save them. Most 3-character decks, you don't want to hold on to these. They're just not as valuable in those matchups, and you need to have the supports out there for sustained damage to kill 3 characters. In decks like Poe Maz or Beta Raider, where they have 2 characters, or a Palpatine where they have 1, you have to hold on. You have to hard mulligan for these cards, because if you get them, you just win. The Poe Maz tends to be a deck that's like, can you kill them fast enough, or else, because they're going to delete you in 3 to 4 turns. They just will, every single game. Crime Lord allows you to outrace them, because you can Crime Lord Poe on turn 1 or turn 2 very easily, and once you've done that, killing Maz with supports is a simple enough matter. Even 1 support with your TIE Pilots can deal 8 damage, so it's pretty nice. And things like defensive position don't really hit their dice once they're out there, because they are defended. So now we move over here into our removal options. There is a lot of removal in this deck compared to, well, this wouldn't be a lot in like an Awakenings meta, but it's a lot in SOR. You have 2 flanks, solid, in a 3-character deck. You have 2 best defenses. This is very useful because if you can trick your opponent into killing a TIE Pilot early, you can get off an endless. You have way more than enough money to pay for endless ranks typically, so it's like a losing game for your opponent if they kill a TIE Pilot first and you immediately just endless ranks. You already have a couple supports, and you want them to kill the TIE Pilots first, because as long as Unkar is out there, you're generating resources. Once Unkar dies, you're generating much less. You still get some, but it's not nearly as much as you would be generating. So if you can get them to kill TIE Pilots, then you're going to have much more resources throughout the game, and you need resources in this deck. If one, he doesn't like you mainly because there are no dice that you want to remove, except for maybe the supply line. But if you look over here, you're not going to remove any of the TIE Pilots, because those help to protect your dice, and you're going to use the Unkar dice for focus or resources. You never want to remove anything. So it's really not worth the 2 of. You also don't roll dice out into the pool very fast. So, yeah, I don't know. It's in there, but currently I have it slotted out for another ATSD in my physical deck, just because I wanted a better shot at hitting a good Friends in High Places. We also have Electro Shock. Solid, obviously, it's good removal, direct hit removal. And we have 1/4 portions. They feel worse, but Flank and Best Defense and Electroshock all feel worse once Unkar dies. So as you can see, that's like all your removal is worse once Unkar dies because you have less characters. You know, Best Defensing when you're not trying to protect Unkar isn't as good, and then Electroshock you can't use. So 1/4 portion is just a solid. It's always going to work type of removal. Um, Moving on, well, I'll say this in summary. Your removal is pretty solid. You're typically removing 1 to 2 dice a turn. Um, Unfortunately, you will have hands where you won't draw any removal. It just happens when you only have a third of your deck as cards, which sounds like a lot, but it will happen where one turn throughout most games you won't have removal, and you're just going to have to deal with it, typically by just adding more health eventually. Moving on, Fair Trade is here. I like this as a kind of meta call type card where basically, if I run into another Unkar deck, Fair Trade is a hard counter because they either plut me and hit the 0, or they plut me, hit a 5, and then I Fair Trade the 5 back to me. This actually worked to some extent. I was able to Fair Trade twice at the Store Championship, one for 5 resources and once for 6. However, it feels really hard sometimes to get off because you need to have the resource drawing when they have a lot of resources and you don't have a lot of resources. And right now in my physical deck, I'm trying out 2 salvage stands right now because salvage stands are so dumb and broken. So yeah, currently salvage stands, but it is a fun and a kind of a cool meta call. I think it has its place. If you could guarantee resources when you need them, that card is just dumb. Friends in low places, super good because you can get rid of their removal. And it's really hard for your opponent to remove your support dice because if you roll out a TIE Pilot, roll out another TIE Pilot. In order for them to get to your support dice, they have to remove one TIE Pilot dice and the other TIE Pilot dice. Then they have to remove your supports. And if they don't remove your TIE Pilot immediately and you happen to roll out 2 TIE Pilot ranged dice, then they can't remove anything ever. But if you add in a Friends in Low Places at the start of the turn, they're basically not going to remove any of your damage dice because, they might remove one of your TIE Pilots, but they're almost never going to have 3 removal or 4 removal if they have to go through, if you friends them. So basically, Friends is just really good because it makes it even harder for them to get to your supports. And it just lets you know whether or not you might want to Unkar that turn, which is actually really important in a lot of matchups. Finally, we have Friends in High Places, which is actually an insane card. It is so easy to show 7, even on turn 1 in this deck. You get a +2, a +2, a 2, and a 1, and you are looking at 7 turn 1 with these dice. It is not hard. It doesn't happen every single turn 1, but it can happen a lot. And especially turn 2 and on, you can easily Friends in High Places, and it accelerates this deck a lot. So I've done things like turn 1, Friends in High Places, and ATST. And if you do that, you'll have to note that I still have my TIE Pilot dice in the pool. So I put out an ATST, I roll it in, I hit a 4. I have like 4 +2 +1 or something, and I'm just like 7 damage turn 1. It's a disgusting card. Unfortunately, you can have very bad turns when you have it in your hand. Because when you have it in your hand, you're trying to get off the Friends in High Places, and you're going to be like, I just need 1 more value. Reroll for that 1 more value. And you're not really going for what's good for that turn. You just want to get the 7. So I think that at times it can mess up your decision-making skills, basically. But the payoff is extremely high. Even getting an early Crime Lord for free on Unkar if they're going for tap outs can feel good. And also, I've actually had this happen a couple times where I was going to lose Unkar, and I actually Friends in High Places and Electroshock, the die that would have killed him. So its uses are more than you would think. And it's especially good in this deck because when you High Places a support into play and then roll it out, typically what would be scary about this is that you're showing so much value out there, and your opponent could remove them. So with like a card like Defensive Position from Poe, from Oz, or any hero red. And the thing about it is that when you're Friends in High Placing in this deck, typically your dice are already all protected. You typically have 2 high value range dice on your TIE Pilots, which means that all of your range dice are already safe. So they can't interact with your dice. So you're not risking anything by leaving your dice out there 1 turn. And that support that you just got when you roll it out, if you hit range, now they can't remove that either. So yeah, very good card for this deck. So overall, what are my thoughts? My thoughts are that it is, from my experience at least, has the potential to be tier 1, but is I'd say it's still tier 2, tier 1.5 at the moment. Although the only thing that really concerns me for the deck is the double salvage stand that decks like Unkar are going to pull out against you. If that happens, there's almost nothing you can do. However, the upside of this deck is insane. At the tournament, I crime lorded Pomaz turn 1 super easily. Um, it just you hard mulligan for these, and it's just like, well, you kill Poe, and then Maz dies the next few turns. But I've had multiple times where on turn 2, I'm dealing easily 8 to 10 damage with supports, 8 to 12. And you can do things like turn 1, Ace and Little Crime Lord, start the next turn with 2 resources, roll out, get more resources, play a support, get more resources with Blood, play a support, roll out, and easily deal 6 with your supports. And against the 2-character deck, you've dealt 6 to 1 character, Crime Lord to the other, and then the next turn you just finish them off with your supports. It's that fast when you Crime Lord. Obviously, when you don't Crime Lord, it's much slower, but then you're drawing into removal, you're prolonging the game, maybe your friends in high places, and if you get out multiple supports, you can, like, the damage dice on these TIE pilots are insane. They are Vader level damage. There's a 2, a 3, a 2, a 3, and then beyond that, the focus and the +1 are also useful for dealing damage anyways. And then the focus on Unkar also helps guarantee damage. So yeah, it's surprisingly a fast vehicle deck. I never thought I would say that. I never thought I'd say that a vehicle deck could ever kill a person in 3 turns. If you look at like the hero comparisons, like they maybe turn 1 get out a Falcon, maybe turn 2 get out a Ewing. Even if they do that, the Falcon dealt at max 4 damage turn 1. At max, they dealt 7 more damage turn 2, so that's 11 damage. And that's with them getting 10 resources in 2 turns. Whereas this deck can deal equivalently around 6 damage to supports, which is 5 less than the hero's perfect scenario, while also crime lording them. So I don't know. It's very fast. I've won multiple games in 3 turns. I've also had games that go much longer, because when you don't have a perfect game, you have cards that prolong the game. You have good removal. You have endless ranks, and yeah, it's just a fun deck. I'd encourage you to try it out. Let me know how it goes for you. I want this deck to be tier 1. I'm not convinced. As long as Salvage Stand is in the meta, it's going to struggle because it really does need resources. Unkar can sometimes hit you for a ton from your hand, although you have, like, I believe, how many is it? I think 16 0 or 1 cost cards. So a majority of your deck is cheap. The exceptions are just these, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 cards that you don't want them to hit. In my new version, it would be 12 cards that you don't want them to hit. So yeah, there are actually 18 0 1 cost cards. So you shouldn't be too afraid of Blood unless they just happen to get lucky. That would suck. I've had it happen to me. I've had endless ranks pulled out of my hand. I've had an ATSD pulled out of my hand. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a good deck. Let me know what you think. And hopefully I'll be posting some gameplay videos of this soon as well. So until next time, thanks for watching my video.